CIET NCERT presents audiobook Khel Yatra, textbook of physical education and well-being for grade 8.
Page 93, Unit 4. On the left side of the page, there is a QR code. You can scan the QR code for additional resources of this unit. On the right side, there is a picture of a child playing table tennis. Fundamental skills of sports, table tennis. In this unit, we will learn about the game of table tennis, one of the fastest racket game in the world, played on a wooden table with a dark matte surface divided by a net. This fast-paced sport uses a 40 plus ball and a racket of any shape or size. Players use a combination of forehand and backhand strokes, applying both defensive and attacking techniques to win rallies and score points. It requires quick reflexes as well as eye, hand, and sound coordination. Fast movements, accuracy, concentration, along with attention attracts people of all ages and genders to this game. Earlier known as ping pong and gosima, table tennis is a recreational, remedial, and competitive sport. To understand table tennis better, we will learn about speed, strength, quick reaction time, and its combination, as well as physical, mental, social, emotional, and spiritual skills which enable players to play, sustain, and live a holistic life. Page 94. Grip. In any racket sport, including table tennis, grip is the first and foremost requirement to foster the skill of the sport. Grip is a technique to hold the racket by which a player strikes the ball. Warm-up. Entangle and release weight on a rod through rope by wrist movement. Flexion, extension, radial and ulnar deviation, rotation of the wrist with open palm and closed fist. Skill, grip. Cool down, open hand palm, stretch, wrist, rotation clockwise and anti-clockwise. Circle time, strength and flexibility. Grip. A grip is of two types. 1. Shake hand grip. Point 1. Shake the hand with the slant racket and hold it in the palm. Point 2. Place the thumb and index finger parallel to the straight edge of the rubber. Point 3. Wrap the remaining 3 fingers around the handle. At the bottom of the page towards right, there is an image of 2 hands holding rackets in shake hand grip. Page 95. Point 4. Ensure that the grip is loose as this will give more readiness, flexibility and strength for better rotation and stability. 2. Pen hold grip. Point 1. Hold the racket as you are holding a pen. Point 2. Thumb and index finger should hold the actual handle near the blade. Point 3. The remaining fingers are positioned around the back of the racket blade. Note, there are 2 types of pen hold grip, Chinese grip and Japanese grip. But nowadays, the shake hand grip is more commonly used worldwide. On the right side, there is an image of 2 hands holding rackets in pen hold grip. Lead up activity. Tapping the ball, standing. Point 1. Forehand tapping. Players will bounce the ball on the racket using the forehand side, the side of the thumb facing side. Point 2. Backhand tapping. Ask the player to bounce the ball on the racket using the backhand side, that is, index finger facing up. Point 3. Combination tapping. The player will tap the ball on the forehead and backhand side of the racket alternately. Point 4. Time duration. 2 minutes of each activity and players will count the number of balls tapped. Page 96. Note for the teacher. The teachers should observe the coordinative ability of players such as eye-hand, hand-sound and eye-sound coordination and ensure that they enjoy the session. Variations. Point 1. The same can be done while walking or running straight around the table or in a zigzag way. Point 2. This fun activity can be conducted outdoors. In case it is windy, a corridor is a good option. Circle time, strength and flexibility. Identify while holding the racket which muscles are involved and which joints allow the rotation of the hand while performing the alternate backhand and forehand tapping of the ball on the racket. How did you manage to balance the knock on the ball from the center of your paddle while walking or running? Discuss how you felt after completing the desired number of knocks on the ball by forehand and backhand. Did you know? Table tennis is both an individual and team sport, featured in various tournament formats such as the new Swethling Cup, Corbillon Cup and Olympic patterns. Page 97. Footwork. Footwork is one of the most important aspects of table tennis. In order to return a ball at marked 1.525 meter wide end line and its imaginary extension on both sides, the key principle of an efficient return is returning the ball in front of the body's medial line in the backhand grip and comfortable lateral movement in the forehand grip. Also, a quick and proper placement of the foot sideways, backwards and forward with a balanced weight is necessary while returning to make it comfortable. Footwork helps players move efficiently to position themselves for the best possible execution of skills. Proper footwork allows for quick reactions, better balance, and smoother transitions between strokes. Warm-up, jogging, skipping, and ladder running. Skill, footwork, cool down, slow stretching, and 30 seconds hold for calves, quadriceps, hamstrings. Circle time, eye-hand-ear coordination. Footwork. Types of footwork. There are various types of footwork in table tennis, namely 1. Side-to-side footwork, that is shuffling or sliding step. 2. In and out footwork, that is front and back movement. 3. Pivot footwork. Page 98. 4. Crossover step. 5. One-step footwork. At the center of the page, there are two columns of footwork pattern. On the left, it is labeled to move left, big step with drag, side skip written thrice, side skip with small step. On the right, it is labeled to move right, drag with big step, side skip twice, side skip with small step. These are organized under three categories in the center. 1. One-step footwork. 2. Two-step footwork. 3. Three-step footwork. Descriptions. Basic footwork comprises the following. 1. Stance. Point 1. Stand with feet shoulder width apart. Point 2. Keep knees slightly bent and body leaning forwards. Point 3. Stay on the balls of your feet to enable quick movement. Page 99. 2. Side to side movement. Point 1. Push off with one foot to move laterally. Point 2. Maintain balance while gliding smoothly. Point 3. Keep the racket in a neutral position ready for the next stroke. 3. Forward movement. Point 1. Step forward with the leading foot when attacking. Point 2. Transfer your weight onto the front foot. Point 3. Stay low to maintain stability. 4. Backward movement. Point 1. Push off the front foot to move backward. Point 2. Keep the body centered and balanced. Point 3. Stay ready to return to the table quickly. 5. Follow through. Point 1. After each shot, return to ready stance. Point 2. Stay light on your feet to adjust for the next movement. Lead up activity. Players will stand on one side of the table while the teacher or feeder calls out random directions such as left, right, forward, or back. Players must move according to the instructions as fast as possible while maintaining their balance. Point 1. If a player moves in the wrong direction or is too slow, they receive a point against them. Point 2. The first player to get 5 points against them loses and the winner advances to the next round. Point 3. To add to the level of difficulty, the teacher or feeder can introduce a ball hitting requirement where players must move to the correct position and hit a shot at the same time. Page 100. Note for the teacher. Use visual and verbal clues to help players react faster. Variation. Point 1. Set up cones or ladders in different positions and players must move between them quickly while maintaining proper balance. Point 2. The coach throws multiple balls in different areas and the player must adjust their footwork to hit each ball correctly. Point 3. Two players compete to see who can shuffle from side to side the fastest without losing balance. Circle time, eye, hand, ear coordination. How can visual and verbal cues to help improve footwork and what are some effective cues to enhance speed, balance and positioning? Do you know? There are 11 classifications in the Paralympic event of table tennis. Class 1 to 5 are for wheelchair, play class 6 to 10 for standing disabilities and class 11 for intellectually challenged players. Page 101. Forehand push. The forehand push is a defensive stroke in table tennis used to return short and low balls with backspin. It helps to maintain control in rallies by preventing opponents from attacking aggressively. Warm-up. In a first position, perform alternate elbow flexion and extension doing maximal contraction of the fist along with supination and pronation. Skill, forehand push. Cool down. Perform slow stretching of the arms, wrist and shoulders. Practice deep breathing. Circle time, realization. Forehand push. The forehand push comprises the following. 1. Stance. Point 1. Stand with feet shoulder width apart. Point 2. Keep knees bent and lean slightly forward. Point 3. Position the left foot slightly ahead. At the bottom of the page on the right side, there is a picture of a child standing with feet shoulder width apart, knees bent and leaning slightly forward. Left foot slightly ahead. There is a caption, some players prefer to stand parallel to the end line of the table. Page 102. Point 4. Hold the racket at table height in front of the body. 2. Backswing. Point 1. Move the right foot back into a side-on stance. Point 2. Adjust the left foot to maintain the side-on position. Point 3. Move the arm back and slightly upwards, pivoting at the elbow. Point 4. Angle the wrist backwards. On the left side, there is a picture of a child, right foot back into side on stand. The wrist is angled backward, holding the racket in right hand. The arms are slightly upwards. 3. Strike. Make contact underneath the ball in front of the body, placing backspin on the ball. Snap the wrist at the moment of contact of the ball and the racket. On the left side, there is a picture of a child. The wrist is snapped at the moment of contact of the ball and the racket. 4. Follow through. Point 1. Continue the racket movement forwards and downwards. Point 2. Return to ready position. Page 103. Lead up activity. Players will pair up and rally using only the forehand push, trying to keep the ball on the table. If a player makes an error, that is, hits into the net, off the table, obstructs the ball or lifts the ball too high, the opponent earns 1 point. The first player to win 5 points wins the round, while the loser switches to play with a different player. Teachers can introduce a target accuracy challenge where player aims to push the ball into marked zones on the table for bonus points. Notes for the teacher. Point 1. Teachers should demonstrate the proper technique first, focusing on racket angle, ball contact and follow through. Point 2. Players should practice slow, controlled pushes before increasing speed and spin. Point 3. Teachers should provide individual feedback emphasizing accuracy over power. Variations. A deeper push that forces the opponent away from the table, disrupting their position. Circle time. Realization. Discuss how the ball moved when you hit it from different positions. For example, when your weight was on your rear leg, middle line, or on your forwards leg. How did each position change the power, control, and accuracy of your shot? Page 104. Backhand push. The backhand push is a defensive stroke in table tennis used to return short, low balls with or without backspin. It is an essential skill for controlling rallies, returning serves, and preventing aggressive attacks from opponents. Warm-up. In a fist position, perform alternate elbow flexion and extension, doing maximal contraction of the fist along with supination and pronation. Skill, backhand push. Cool down. Pushing fingers back with an open palm with the help of the other arm. Circle time. Feel the muscle. Backhand push. The backhand push comprises the following. 1. Stance. Point 1. Stand with your feet shoulder width apart. Point 2. Keep knees bent and lean slightly forward. Point 3. Position the left foot slightly ahead. Point 4. Hold the racket in front of the body. On the right side of the page at the bottom, there is an image of a child standing with feet shoulder width apart, knees bent and leaning forward. The left foot positioned slightly ahead, holding the racket in front of the body. It is captioned, "Some players prefer to stand parallel to the end line of the table." Page 105. 2. Backswing. Point 1. Move the racket a little backwards and a little forwards. Point 2. Angle the wrist slightly backwards. On the top of the page, there are 3 images. On the top right, there is the girl holding racket in her right hand, contacting a ball. The angle of wrist is slightly backwards. On the right side, there is a child sitting on a wheelchair with wrist angled slightly backward, holding racket in right hand and ball above the racket. On the left, there is a child holding racket in right hand, making contact underneath or at the back of the ball directly in front of the middle line. 3. Strike. Make contact underneath or at the back of the ball directly in front of the body or in front of the middle line to return or to generate backspin. 4. Follow through. Point 1. Continue the racket movement forwards and downwards. Point 2. Return to the ready position. Lead up activity. Players will pair up and rally using only the backhand push, aiming to keep the ball on the table. If a player makes an error, that is, hits into the net of the table or lifts the ball too high, the opponent earns 1 point. The first player to win 5 points wins the round, while the loser switches to play with a new opponent. Page 106. To increase the difficulty, the teachers can introduce a target zone challenge where players earn extra points for landing the ball in specific marked areas on the table. A thread can be tied across the table through the net clamps 4 inches above the net, and players may be asked to pass the ball in between through the thread and the net. Notes for the teacher. Point 1. The teachers should first demonstrate the correct backhand push technique, focusing on grip, ball contact, and follow through. Point 2. Players should start with slow, controlled pushes before increasing the speed and spin. Point 3. Teachers should provide individual feedback and emphasize consistency over power. Variations. Point 1. A soft push with a heavy backspin to keep the ball short, making it harder for the opponent to attack. Point 2. A deeper push that forces the opponent away from the table, disrupting their position. Circle time. Feel the muscles. Discuss and compare the body parts or muscles that were engaged while performing this skill with those that were used in other skills. Highlight the similarities and differences in the movement and effort. Also try to count the constant returns and increase the numbers. Page 107. Basic service. In table tennis, most of the players score a point within the first 40 to 50 seconds, and the major cause is the effectiveness of the service. It is an important skill that a player should develop first. The key focus for beginners is to develop a legal and consistent serve by following the correct technique and laws. Warm-up. Shoulder flexion and extension with the elbow supinated during flexion and the elbow pronated during extension. Skill. Basic service. Cool down. Perform slow stretching for the arms, wrists and shoulders. Circle time. Fair play. Basic service. A basic service comprises the following. 1. Stance. Point 1. The ball shall be resting on an open and stationary palm. Hold the ball on a flat palm to ensure a legal serve. On the right side of the page at the bottom, there is an image of a child with ball resting on an open and stationary left palm while holding racket in the right hand. The zoomed in image of palm holding ball is also there. Page 108. The racket should be behind and above the end line of the table. Stand with feet shoulder width apart and the knees slightly bent for balance. 2. Backswing. Toss the ball at least 16 cm, that is 6 inches, near vertical from the hand. Simultaneously move the racket back to prepare for contact. Keep a relaxed grip on the racket for better control. On the right side of the page, there is an image of a child in backswing. 3. Strike. Swing the racket forwards. Make contact with the ball while it is coming down. Strike the ball so that it first touches your side of the table and then crossing over the net to the opposite side. On the left side, there is an image of a child in strike swinging the racket forwards, making contact with ball while it's coming down. 4. Follow through. Continue the racket movement forwards and upwards, preparing to strike the return ball from the opponent. Page 109. Lead up activity. Keep a small tub at the center of the opponent's side of the table. Ensure that players take turns to service 5 times and aim to land the ball inside the tub, placed as the target. If the ball lands inside the target, the player earns a point. The player with the most points win, while the player with the least point loses, abiding by proper service techniques. Note for the teacher. The teacher should focus on ensuring that players toss the ball vertically, that is at least 16 cm near vertical, and strike it while it has started falling down, making sure that the ball is not hidden by any body part or partner in case of doubles or a pair activity. Variations. Point 1. If a soft serve by a player bounces twice or more on the opponent's side, the player will lose a point. Point 2. A faster serve can be introduced that reaches the opponent's side deep and close to the end line. Point 3. A serve directed towards the corners of the table can be introduced to force the opponent to move. Circle time, fair play. Discuss the importance of fair play in sports and how it promotes respect and integrity. If you notice a teammate engaging in foul play, how would you address the situation while maintaining team spirit? Page 110. Topspin service. A topspin service in table tennis is an attacking serve that makes the ball spin forwards, causing it to dip quickly and bounce aggressively towards the opponent. Warm-up, wrist rotations, arm swings, shoulder rolls and shadow service. Skill, topspin service. Cool down, perform slow stretching for the arms, wrist and shoulders. Circle time, ball trajectory. Topspin service. The topspin service comprises the following. 1. Stance. Point 1. The ball shall be resting on an open and stationary palm. Point 2. Keep the racket and free hand above and behind the end line of the table. At the bottom on the right side of the page, there is a picture of a child with ball resting on an open and stationary left palm, racket in the right hand, raised above, standing behind the end line of the table. Page 111. 2. Backswing. Point 1. Toss the ball at least 16 cm vertically. Point 2. Move the racket backwards behind the ball. Point 3. Angle the racket slightly closed for a topspin service. On the right side, there is an image of a child tossing a ball, moving racket backwards behind the ball. Angle of the racket slightly closed for a topspin service. 3. Strike. Swing the racket forwards and a little upwards. Make contact with the ball squarely, brushing it downwards up. Strike the top of the ball for the topspin. At the center of the page on the left side, there is an image of a child swinging the racket forwards and little upwards, making contact with ball squarely. 4. Follow through. Continue the racket movement forwards and upwards for the topspin. Prepare to recover for the next shot. At the bottom of the page, there are two images of hands holding racket and contacting ball. Page 112. Players will participate in pairs. Each player takes turns serving with a topspin motion, aiming to land the ball on the opponent's side consistently. If a service bounces twice or forces the opponent into a weak return, then the service is considered successful and the player earns 1 point. If the serve goes out or into the net, the service is unsuccessful and the opponent earns the point. The first player to reach 5 points wins the round, while the loser switches to challenge a different opponent. To increase the difficulty, the target accuracy challenge can be introduced, where specific areas on the table are marked and players earn extra points for landing their service in those zones. Another variation is the spin challenge, where players must apply more spin with each service, making it harder for their opponent to return the ball. Notes for the teacher. The teachers should first demonstrate the correct topspin service technique, highlighting grip, body position, and the brushing motion needed to generate spin. Players should practice the service against a wall or with partners, receiving individual feedback on their form. Variations. Point 1. The ball is hit softly with a brushing motion, so it bounces twice on the opponent's side, making it difficult to return the ball. Point 2. The ball is hit with more power and spin, causing it to land deep in the opponent's court and forcing a quick reaction. Page 113. Circle time. Ball trajectory. Discuss the significance of the ball trajectory. How does the topspin affect the ball's movement and the opponent's return? There are 3 diagrams. First, the topspin at the top diagram is paddle hitting the ball with an upward brushing motion, creating a forward curving trajectory that dips down after crossing the net. 2. The middle diagram of backspin depicts the paddle brushing downward on the ball. 3. Side spin on bottom is a view from above the table with paddle striking the ball from side. Page 114. Backspin service. A backspin service in table tennis is a defensive serve that makes the ball spins backward, causing it to slow down after bouncing and making it harder for the opponent to attack. Warm up. Wrist and arm stretching to loosen muscles. Ball control drills in which the players lightly bounce the ball on their racket with a backspin motion to feel the effect. Skill. Backspin service. Cool down. Perform slow stretching for the arms, wrist and shoulders. Practice deep breathing. Circle time, reflection and strategy. Backspin service. The backspin service comprises the following. 1. Stance. Point 1. The ball shall be resting on an open and stationary palm. Point 2. Keep the racket and free hand above and behind the end line of the table. On the right side at the bottom of the page, there is an image of a child with ball resting on an open and stationary palm, racket and free hand above and behind the end line of the table. Page 115. 2. Backswing. Point 1. Toss the ball at least 16 cm, that is 6 inch vertically. Point 2. Move the racket backwards behind the ball. Point 3. Open the racket angle for the backspin service. On the right side of the page, there is an image of a child tossing a ball vertically, moving racket backwards behind the ball. 3. Strike. Point 1. Swing the racket forwards. Point 2. Make contact with the ball squarely. Point 3. Strike the bottom of the ball to create backspin. On the left side, there is an image of a child swinging racket forwards, making contact with the ball squarely. 4. Follow through. Point 1. Follow through forwards and go deep downwards for the backspin. Point 2. Get ready to recover to return the next ball. Lead up activity. Players will participate in pairs. Each player takes turns serving with the backspin motion, aiming to land the ball on the opponent's side successfully. If the service is executed correctly by the player and it forces the opponent into a weak return or a mistake, the player earns 1 point. If the service goes into the net or off the table, it is considered unsuccessful when the opponent earns the point. The first player to reach 5 points wins the round, while the loser switches to face a new opponent. Page 116. To increase the difficulty level, a spin effect challenge can be introduced. The players must serve the ball in such a way that after it bounces or touches the opponent's court, it returns back to the net due to the heavy backspin. The more the ball spins backwards, the better the service. Another variation is the target zone challenge, in which players aim to land their backspin service in specific marked areas on the table for extra points. Notes for the teacher. Point 1. The teachers should first demonstrate the correct backspin service technique, highlighting grip, ball contact, and follow through. Point 2. Players should start with slow, controlled serves, focusing on proper spin before increasing speed and variation. Point 3. The teachers should give individual feedback and emphasize consistency over speed, spin, and power. Variations. Point 1. The ball is hit softly, causing it to bounce twice on the opponent's side, making it difficult to attack. Point 2. The ball is hit with more speed while still applying backspin, making it harder for the opponent to return with power. Circle time, reflection, and strategy. Point 1. What was the most challenging part of executing the backspin service? Point 2. How does backspin affect the ball's movement and the opponent's return? Point 3. When would you use a backspin service in a match situation? Page 117. Forehand drive. The forehand drive is an attacking stroke used in table tennis to hit the ball with speed and control. It is played with a forward and slightly upward motion, creating a light topspin. Warm-up. Arm circles, wrist rotations and lunges. Bounce the ball on the racket to develop touch and control. Skill, forehand drive. Cool down, slow stretching and deep breathing. Circle time, coordination, control and consistency. Forehand drive. The forehand drive comprises the following. 1. Stance. Point 1. Stand with feet shoulder width apart. Point 2. Keep knees bent and lean slightly forwards. Point 3. Position the left foot slightly ahead. Point 4. Hold the racket at table height in front of the body. 2. Backswing. Point 1. Move the right foot back into a side-on stance. Point 2. Adjust the left foot to maintain the side-on position. Point 3. Rotate the waist and hips backwards. Point 4. Bend the elbow and move the arm slightly downwards. Page 118. On the top of the page, there are 4 pictures. On top left, there is an image of a child doing backswing, the right foot back into side-on stance, rotating the waist and hips backward, the elbow bent and arms moved slightly downward. On the top right, there is an image of a child doing footwork with step forward with leading foot when attacking. On the bottom left, the child is striking with shifting weight onto the front foot, swinging the arm forwards and backwards, making contact with the ball ahead of the body. On the bottom right, the child is doing follow through continuing the racket movement forwards and upwards, return to ready position. 3. Strike. Point 1. Shift your weight onto the front foot. Point 2. Swing the arm forwards and backwards. Point 3. Make contact with the ball ahead of the body. Point 4. Rotate the hips and waist forwards. 4. Follow through. Point 1. Continue the racket movement forwards and upwards. Point 2. Return to ready position. Page 119. Lead up activity. Place or hang the hula hoop so that the hoop is of the same height as the player's upper body, or if there is a group of 3, have one player hold the hoop. In pairs, play a game wherein players must hit the ball through the hoop with a point scored for each successful hit. Notes for the teacher. Point 1. Show players the correct technique focusing on grip, stance and swing. Point 2. Allow players to practice in pairs or against the wall, giving individual feedback. Variations. Point 1. Keep the ball low and close to the net. Point 2. Players practice by placing the ball at different areas of the table, that is left, right, center, to improve control. Circle time, coordination, control and consistency. Point 1. How did controlling the ball help in the game? Point 2. What adjustments did you make to improve your accuracy? Page 120. Backhand drive. The backhand drive is an attacking stroke in table tennis that allows players to hit the ball with speed and control using the backhand side of the racket. Warm-up, wrist rotations, arm swings, shoulder rolls. Bounce the ball on the racket using only the backhand side to develop control. Skill, backhand drive. Cool down, slow stretching and deep breathing. Circle time, proper technique. Backhand drive. The backhand drive comprises the following. 1. Stance. Point 1. Stand with feet shoulder width apart, parallel to the end line of the table. Point 2. Keep knees bent and lean slightly forward. Point 3. Position the left foot slightly ahead. Point 4. Hold the racket at table height in front of the body. 2. Back swing. Point 1. Move the racket back a little sideways towards the waist. Page 121. Point 2. Angle the wrist backwards and inwards. Point 3. Rotate the waist and hips backward. On the top of the page, there are 3 images of progression of the stroke from left to right, with the player's stance and racket position changing through each phase of movement. 3. Strike. Point 1. Swing the racket straight and forward. Point 2. Move the opening elbow slightly forward. Point 3. Make contact at the front of the body slightly to the left. Point 4. Close the wrist over the ball at contact. 4. Follow through. Point 1. Guide the racket in the ball's direction with a little upwards and forwards motion. Point 2. Return to the ready position for the next stroke. Lead up activity. Players will compete in pairs. Each player will rally using only the backhand drive, aiming to keep the ball on the table. The rally continues until one player makes a mistake, such as hitting the ball off the table or into the net. The player who wins the rally earns 1 point, while the losing player switches and faces a new opponent. The first player to reach 5 points is declared the winner of the round. Page 122. To increase the difficulty level, different variations can be introduced. In the target challenge, specific zones on the opponent sides of the table are marked, and players earn an extra point if they land their drive in those areas. In the timed rally, the goal is to maintain the longest backhand drive rally without making an error, and the player achieving the longest streak is declared the winner. For a more competitive round, a knockout game can be added in which any player who loses 3 rallies in a row must perform a quick exercise such as 5 jumping jacks before rejoining the game. Notes for the teacher. Point 1. Show the correct backhand drive technique focusing on grip, stance and follow through. Point 2. Allow players to practice individually against the wall or with partners while providing corrective feedback to them. Variations. Point 1. Keep the ball low and close to the net. Point 2. Players practice hitting on different areas of the table, left, right and center to improve their control. Circle time. Proper technique. Discuss the significance of proper technique and phases during practice. Page 123. Forehand top spin. The forehand top spin is an attacking stroke in table tennis that generates forward spin, making the ball dip and accelerate after bouncing. Warm-up, wrist rotation, arm swings and shoulder rolls, squat and jumping jacks. Skill, forehand top spin, cool down, deep breathing, circle time, spin. Forehand top spin. The forehand top spin comprises the following. 1. Stance. Point 1. Stand with the feet shoulder width apart. Point 2. Keep the knees bent and lean slightly forwards. Point 3. Position the left foot slightly ahead. Point 4. Hold the racket in front of the body. At the bottom of the page on the right, there is a picture of a child with feet shoulder width apart, knees bent and leaning slightly forwards. The left foot positioned slightly ahead, holding the racket in front of the body. Page 124. 2. Backswing. Point 1. Move the right foot back into a side-on position. Point 2. Rotate the upper body backward and downward, going right at the shoulders, waist and hips. Point 3. Angle the left knee towards the right knee and keep the right knee well bent. Point 4. Lower the racket head downwards and the arm moving towards the floor. Point 5. Shift your weight onto the back foot. Point 6. Angle the wrist backward to impart spin. On the left side at the top of the page, there is an image of a child moving the right foot back into a side-on position. Angle the left knee towards the right knee and keeping the right knee well bent. Lower the racket head downwards and the arm moving towards the floor. Angle the wrist backwards to impart spin. 3. Strike. Point 1. Rotate the hips, waist and shoulders upwards and forwards. Point 2. Quickly close the elbow angle. Point 3. Transfer the weight onto the front foot. Point 4. Snap the wrist at the moment of contact. Point 5. Brush the top of the ball to generate top spin. On the right side of the page, there is an image of a child with hips, waist and shoulders upwards and forwards, snapping the wrist at the moment of contact, brushing the top of the ball to generate top spin. 4. Follow through. Point 1. Continue the racket movement forward and upward. Point 2. Return to ready position for the next top spin. Page 125. Lead up activity. Players will pair up and rally using only the forehand top spin, trying to keep the ball on the table. If a player misses a top spin, hits into the net, off the table or fails to generate top spin, their opponent earns 1 point. The first to reach 5 points wins the round, while the loser switches to play a new opponent. The players try to increase the speed of their top spin strokes while maintaining control and consistency. They aim to land their shots in the marked areas along with the spin on the table for bonus points. Notes for the teacher. Point 1. The teachers should start by demonstrating the correct forehand topspin technique, emphasizing grip, footwork, ball contact, and movement of elbow, waist, hip, and foot rotation. Point 2. Players should begin with slow and controlled topspins before increasing power and speed. Variations. Point 1. Techniques given in this chapter needs to be clearly explained, that is useful for countering backspin. Point 2. A faster shot with less arc and more forward speed, making it aggressive and difficult to return as the ball dips down and spins. Circle time, spin. How does the spin affect the speed, bounce and control of the ball in a forehand topspin, and why is it an important skill? Page 126, backhand topspin. The backhand topspin is an attacking stroke used to generate forward spin, making the ball dip quickly and accelerate after bouncing. Warm-up, wrist rotation, arm swings and shoulder rolls. Skill, backhand topspin. Cool down, slow stretching for the arms, wrists and shoulders, deep breathing. Circle time, spin. Backhand topspin. The backhand topspin comprises the following. 1. Stance. Point 1. Stand with feet shoulder width apart, square to the table. Point 2. Keep knees bent, lean slightly forwards. Point 3. Hold the racket in front of the body. On the right side at the bottom of the page, there is an image of a child standing with feet shoulder width apart, square to the table, keeping the knees bent and leaning slightly forward, holding the racket in front of the body. Page 127. 2. Back swing. Point 1. Rotate the hips, knees, shoulders and waist to the left and downwards. Point 2. Move the racket back towards the left thigh area. On the top right, there is an image of a child with hips, knees, shoulders and waist rotated to the left and downwards. The racket moved back toward left thigh area. 3. Strike. Point 1. Rotate forwards and upwards using the legs. Point 2. Rotate the hips and waist forwards. Point 3. Swing the racket forwards and upwards. Point 4. Snap the wrist at contact. Point 5. Accelerate through the stroke for more spin and power. On the left, there is an image of a child swinging the racket forwards and upwards. 4. Follow through. Point 1. Continue the racket movement forwards and upwards. Point 2. Return to ready position for the next topspin. Lead up activity. Players will rally using only the backhand topspin, keeping the ball on the table. If a player misses a shot by hitting into the net of the table or falling to generate a topspin, their opponent earns 1 point. The first player to achieve 5 points wins and the loser switches to play with a new opponent. Players aim to generate maximum topspin, ensuring the ball dips quickly after bouncing. Players must land their topspin shots in marked areas for bonus points. Page 128. Notes for the teacher. Point 1. Teachers should start by demonstrating the correct backhand topspin technique, focusing on grip, foot positioning and ball contact. Point 2. Players should begin with slow, controlled topspins before increasing spin, power and speed to the stroke. Variations. Point 1. A slow but high arcing shot with heavy topspin, ideal for a countering backspin. Point 2. A quicker lower shot with less arc and more forward speed used for aggressive attacking. Circle time, spin. Point 1. How does the angle of the racket affect the spin, speed and control of the ball in a backhand topspin shot? Why is adjusting the racket angle important? Point 2. Discuss the variation of the racket angle between the slow but high arcing shots and of the lower shots with a less arc. Did you know? Table tennis is played under 15 basic laws developed by the International Table Tennis Federation. Discuss some of them with your friends. Page 129. Smash. The smash is one of the most powerful strokes in table tennis. It is used to score a point with a fast and aggressive play. It is played when the opponent returns a high ball, allowing the player to hit it forcefully and with variation in placement on the table. Warm-up, arm swings, wrist rotations and leg stretches. Skill, smash. Cool down, perform static stretching for the arms, wrists, shoulders and legs. Circle time, strategy. Smash. The smash comprises the following. 1. Stance. Point 1. Stand side on to the table. Point 2. Position yourself slightly back from the table. 2. Back swing. Point 1. Bring the arm straight back, aligning it directly behind the ball. Point 2. Rotate the body backwards, shifting your weight onto the back foot. Page 130. 3. Strike. Point 1. Move forwards with your body weight, transferring your weight onto the front leg. Point 2. Make contact with the ball ahead of the body. 4. Follow through. Point 1. Follow through forward, focusing on body positioning, shifting the body weight. Point 2. Return to the ready position. At the bottom of the page, there are 3 pictures. On the left, the child is standing side on the table, positioned slightly back from the table. On the right, child is bringing arms straight back, shifting weight onto back foot. In the center at the bottom of the page, there is a picture of a child moving forwards with the body weight, transferring the weight onto front leg, making contact with the ball ahead of the body. Page 131. Lead up activity. One player tosses the ball high for their opponent to smash. If the smash lands on the table and the opponent fails to return it, the player who used the smash technique earns 1 point. If the player misses or the opponent returns the ball successfully, the opponent gains the point. Players must aim for marked target zone when smashing. The opponent must try to return the smash while the player focuses on the placement of the smash. Note for the teacher. Teachers should start by demonstrating the proper smash technique, focusing on positioning, shoulder, arm movement and follow through. Variations. Point 1. Used when the ball is on the forehand and backhand side, requiring a strong wrist snap for power. Point 2. The most common and powerful smash, hit with full body rotation for maximum force. Point 3. A deceptive smash played with less power, placing the ball short to catch the opponent off guard. Circle time, strategy. When should you use a smash instead of a topspin? How can you position yourself for a smash and what adjustments are needed against different opponents? Page 132. Table tennis game. Warm-up. Full body stretching, jogging on the spot, ladder drills, high knees. Skill. Table tennis game. Cool down. Full body stretching exercises. Circle time. Enjoy. How to play. Point 1. There will be a game of 5 points which will consist of all the skills you have learnt. Point 2. Whenever a player wins a rally, they earn a point. Point 3. The game is won by the first player to score 5 points. Point 4. In a situation in which player A serves and wins the rally, they advance to serve with a 1-0 lead. Point 5. If player B wins the subsequent rally, player B receives the chance to serve and the score is tied at 1. Players keep serving and rallying throughout the game until one person reaches 5 points. Point 6. Another player can be involved to count the score. Circle time, enjoy. Point 1. How did you gather your focus when you started losing on points? Point 2. Identify the rallies, shots and movements in the games when you enjoyed the most irrespective of who scored the points. Page 133. Assessment by teacher. Grip, shake hand and pen hold. 1. The student needs more practice of grips to comfortably maintain it. 2. The student is able to demonstrate both shake hand and pen hold grip. 3. The student is able to correctly perform either shake hand or pen hold grip. 4. The student is able to change the grips rapidly as per the requirement of the game. 5. The student is able to correctly grip the racket even under pressure. Push, forehand and backhand. 1. The student needs more practice of push to comfortably use it in the game. 2. The student is able to demonstrate both forehand and backhand push. 3. The student is able to correctly perform either forehand or backhand push. 4. The student is able to use both forehand or backhand push according to the requirement of the game. 5. The student is able to assess and appreciate a good defense using push by the opponent. Service, basic, topspin and backspin. 1. The student needs more practice of serves to comfortably use it in the game. 2. The student is able to demonstrate all basic topspin and backspin service. 3. The student is able to correctly perform either basic spin, topspin or backspin service. 4. The student is able to decide which type of the serve should be used for the next rally. 5. The student is able to assess and appreciate a good serve of the opponent. Drive, forehand and backhand. 1. The student needs more practice of drive to comfortably use it in the game. 2. The student is able to demonstrate both forehand and backhand drive. 3. The student is able to correctly perform either forehand or backhand drive. 4. The student is able to decide which type of the drive should be used while playing the rally. 5. The student is able to confidently execute and strong, accurate drives and intelligently employ them throughout rallies. Page 134. Topspin, forehand and backhand. 1. The students need more practice of topspin to comfortably use it in the game. 2. The students is able to demonstrate both forehand and backhand topspin. 3. The students is able to correctly perform either forehand or backhand topspin. 4. The students is able to decide which type of the topspin should be used while playing the rally. 5. The students are able to confidently execute strong, accurate topspins and intelligently employ them throughout the rallies. Smash. 1. The students need more practice of smash to comfortably use it in the game. 2. The students is able to demonstrate smash in the game. 3. The students is able to correctly perform smash in the game. 4. The students is able to execute strong and accurate smash and intelligently use it throughout the rallies. 5. The students is able to assess and appreciate a good smash of the opponent. Overcoming self-distress. 1. The students react emotionally or impulsively without attempting to reduce distress. 2. The students struggle to solve problems and avoid self-reflection. 3. The students make simple attempts to think and solve problems but with little success. 4. The students try to think issues thoroughly and find solutions but occasionally reacts emotionally. 5. The students learn from upsetting experiences and approaches problems with composure. Explore. Some of the back numbers of players given in the illustration depict the birthdays of some famous sports persons. try and find out their names and the laurels they have brought for our country. Unit 4 ends here.
Khel Yatra. You are just listening to the textbook of physical education and well-being for grade 8. Narration Swati Verma. Sound recordist Prasoon Kumar. Assistance in production Amarjeet Sarkar. Directed and produced by Vimalesh Chaudhary. This audiobook is brought to you by CIET NCERT, New Delhi, India.